Yeah. Game time. Double dribble. GS walk tall, let's go. Hey. Hey. Yeah. Hit play, that's a tip off. We in it from the jump. DS walk, breaking down the action. Hey, run, talk stats, talk drama, talk hustle, talk hard. From the league to the black top, he pull it apart. Late nights, hot takes, you can hear the net sing. Overtime moments, every episode rings. You ain't courtside, cool. He bringing you the view. Whole squad tuned in, like what he gonna do? This that Double Dribble Podcast. Yeah, we locked. DS walk, got the fans talking. We ain't clocking from the baseline up to the rafters. Every play. It's that Double Dribble Podcast. Let the crowd roar. DS walk, keep the score on the scoreboard. If you love that talk, better tap in. When he drop that show, we back in. He gon' call out the choke, praise the clutch on the road. From the rookies on fire to the vets in control. Trade rumors in the air, he just shooting them down. Truth cut through the noise, hear the echoing sound. Pre-game, post-game, he got all of that flow. From the what-if legends to the stars we know. You can ride to it, vibe to it. Cook in the crib, whole fam in the kitchen yelling, run that clip. This that Double Dribble Podcast. Yeah, we locked. DS Wall got the fans talking. We ain't clocking on the baseline up to the Raptors.
Hi, welcome to the Double Dribble Podcast. I'm your host, DS Wall. Excuse me there. I had to clear my throat. Before I continue with my stories going on today, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share my show. It helps a brother out. And make sure, you do that. Because, I like bringing content to you guys. I love talking about sports. And I love entertaining everybody. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share my show. And also, make sure you like, subscribe, and check about my show. I want everybody talking about my show. I want everybody talking about what I'm talking about today, what I'm getting ready to talk about. And which is, we're going to talk about my Michigan Wolverines winning the national championship. We're also going to talk about the dust up, the mid-court argument between Don Staley and Coach Gino Auriemma. And we're going to talk about the latest news in the NBA when it comes to the LA Clippers and their punishment, like what's going on with it. And we're going to talk about Giannis. He broke out some news that he asked to be traded multiple times in the season. The Milwaukee Bucks, feel some type of way. So, and they're also saying it was toxic in the locker room. So we're going to touch on all that stuff. But like I said, make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and chat the show. Now, this show was originally done yesterday. But it just goes to show you that when you record and your audio don't come out, it makes things a little hard to post and share everything. So this is the redo of the show. And hopefully the audio, hope you guys can hear me. Hopefully the audio is good because I did a test run. So, but let's start with what's going on here and let's get to it. So if you guys watch the women's college basketball Final Four, and shout out to the UCLA Bruins on winning their first women's national championships. They beat South Carolina 79-51. Lauren Betts, 14 points, 11 rebounds, was MVP. Congratulations to the Lady Bruins. Well deserved. They've been one of the top teams when they were in the Pac-12, now in the Big Ten. Congratulations to them. Well deserved again. But before that, back in the semifinals, South Carolina beat the reigning defending champions of last year, the UConn Huskies, 62-48. And at the end of the game, when the coaches go up there and beat half court, shake hands, we seen an argument by Gino and Don Staley, in which Gino initiated the confrontation. We don't know what was said. We know they got to argument. We did know a little bit that Gino was upset because he had to wait 3 minutes to shake Don's hand. I think it was earlier before the game started, but it has been told and known that Don Staley always go up and shake the opponent's assistant coach's hand and head coach's hand, meet and greet, and he was upset that he had to wait 3 minutes. So during the end of the game, he let her know. He said something, and as the South Philly girl came out of her, she let him know she didn't appreciate it, and she cut right into him. Now, it was a big firestorm about it because it's Gino. We all know he's confrontational, and we also know that he's a competitor. And sometimes, that fiery comes out at the wrong time. I mean, he had a lot of this instance going on, especially with past the late great Pat Summit and other coaches, whether it's in the Big East, rivals like Notre Dame, South Carolina, Tennessee, whoever. Gino is known to let that fairy side come out at the wrong place, wrong time. And this is one of the wrong place, wrong time. Now, before we get to this article, he did issue a statement apologizing for his action, but it kind of felt like more it came from the school because it did not mention Don Staley's name. It mentioned South Carolina. And I know to some people, that was kind of like, why you just can't say her name? You embarrassed her. Let me fix this camera here. Okay. You embarrassed her. You embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed your school. So you should say her name, but her name wasn't mentioned, yada, yada, yada. So Don Staley came out and said something right here in this article. And I'm going to read it. It says, South Carolina coach Don Staley said Tuesday that she has spoken to UConn's Gino Auriemma. I can't pronounce the man's last name. I you know what? Me pronouncing names these days, man, I got to get back to reading a little bit more. And suggested that everyone turn the page after their mid-court argument at the Final Four fueled a firestorm of controversy. She said, I spoke with Gino, and I want to be clear. I have a great deal of respect for him and what he meant to this game, Staley said in a statement. One moment doesn't define a career. It doesn't change the impact that he's had on growing women's basketball. The standard at UConn is what it is because of him. And that's something this game has benefited from. So I'm asking everyone to turn the page. Let's refocus on what matters most. Continue to elevate our game, creating opportunities and pushing it forward. That's always been my mission, and it's not changing. I like that statement she put out there, and she is right. It is time to turn the page because they spoke and they made up. And we don't need to be coming out here and criticizing Gino and putting this situation on spotlight anymore. We just need to move on. And let's find ways to elevate the women's basketball because, truthfully, if y'all have not been paying attention, these ladies are balling out here. And a lot of people are, they have a nice fan base, but it could be better. It could be bigger. Women's basketball is not as boring as people say it is because everybody want to see dunks and fancy passes. Just because these ladies when they play basketball, they play with the missing art that the men's don't have all the time. Fundamentals. Sure, these ladies can throw some fancy passes. Yes. Do they got ladies in that game that could dunk a basketball? Yes. But that's not what they're doing. It's all about winning. And it's all about team game. And women's basketball is more about the team game and the fundamentals of the game of basketball. And let's elevate these ladies to a higher standard. Now, I'm not saying elevate these ladies to the men's standard because that's going to take some time. But Don still is right. It's time to turn the page. Let's find ways to grow the game of basketball for the women. And let's elevate the game. And let's not hold Gino to this disrespect. Let's not look at him in a negative light, because this man has set the standard not only just in UConn basketball, but in women basketball in general. If you remember back in the day, him and Pat Summit, they were like this. Kim Murphy, she's up there. Muffet, she's up there. Carolyn Peck, when she was coach, Carolyn Beck, she was up there. So let's turn the page, like Coach Staley said, and let's enjoy women's basketball. Gino's a standard bearer. You want a coach like Gino, and you leading your program. And you also want a woman like Dawn Staley leading your program. So if she can forgive him, so shall we. But I gotta admit, though, that was payback for South Carolina. Because last year, UConn put a beat down on them, and they returned the favor. Now, when UConn beat them, it was almost 30 points. This time around, they won by 14, but that was payback. And I don't care what Coach Staley said. She know like I know. Gino and his crew gave her the business last year. This year, she returned the favor. Next year, I expect both of these teams to be battling for a national championship. And maybe one of these two teams might end up winning it. See. So let's get to this next story here. This story about the Clippers circumventing the salary cap has been going on for 6 months. And we haven't heard anything from the NBA about a punishment. I mean, you heard little rumors, a little murmurs here and there that at any time now the NBA can drop the hammer or come down on the Clippers. They just haven't done it yet. And then you heard that the punishment might be more severe for Kawhi Leonard. But then once more information came out, shout out to Pablo Torre for that. Then you started hearing that the Clippers might be getting almost something like the death penalty. But we don't know, because the NBA has not, or Adam Silver has not told us what the punishment is going to be. So now everybody here, including your boy, is speculating that I don't know. We just don't know. So it's been 6 months have passed since the allegation first arose that the Clippers circumvented the NBA salary cap to pay star player Kawhi Leonard, prompting the league to investigate. Now, this is the article I got. It's from ESPN. It is written by Baxter Holmes back on April 2nd. At last week's Board of Governors meeting, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver did not address and was not asked about the investigation, but at last month All-Star Weekend, hosted by the Clippers, Silver said the investigation has been enormous, complex. Here's what they know so far about it. He went on to say that the investigation led by the law firm of Wachtel, Limpton, Rosen, and Katz began back in September of 2025, and centers around allegations that the Clippers owner Steve Ballmer and the team orchestrated a $28 million endorsement deal between Leonard and Aspiration, a now bankrupt green baking company in which Ballmer had invested to circumvent the league salary cap. Now, I do want to say this before I continue, is that we all know that Steve Ballmer is the richest owner in all professional sports. He is the de facto richest owner in the NBA. I think what they said his net worth was like $252 billion. And we all know that the NBA is vigorously working to get NBA year going. And one of those guys behind NBA Europe is Steve Ballmer, because he is the richest man in all professional sports. So you can kind of see where Adam Silver is kind of like, I don't want to punish Steve Ballmer. I don't want to punish the richest on my richest owner, because if I do, NBA Europe might be in jeopardy. But he can't let this slide, because if he doesn't punish Steve Ballmer, that's letting every other team know that, number one, the league doesn't care about you circling the salary cap, and two, you do anything you want. And I think that's a bad sign on part of Adam Silver if he doesn't punish Steve Ballmer. But let's continue this article. The NBA investigation followed a series of reports by Pablo Torre, a podcast and ESPN contributor, who cited internal documents that showed Ballmer invested $50 million in Aspiration through his personal LLC in September 2021. That month, the Clippers also signed a $300 million deal with Aspiration, making the company the first founding partner of the Intuit Dome, their brand new arena, which they built. That thing, it opened last year. 6 months later, Aspiration signed his deal with Leonard, an unnamed employee who purposely worked for the banking company, told Torre that Leonard's sponsorship deal was to circumvent the salary cap. Now, if I want you guys, if you get opportunity, if you are into investigating sports, investigative reporting, which I do love, check out Pablo Torre. Pablo Torre Finds Out on YouTube, and he gives you everything you need to know about this situation. The whistleblower, when this happened, he did have some of the people he interviewed on the show who were part of this, but it did anonymous, anonymous, and he gives you all the detail. He shows you all the paperwork and everything. He is basically telling you what the NBA is doing and what they're not doing. So if you're interested, please check out Pablo Torre on Pablo Torre Finds Out on YouTube. It goes on to say here, while Ballmer said he introduced Leonard to Aspiration, he told ESPN Ramona Shelburne in September 2025, he watched that live interview on ESPN, he had no knowledge of the deal and denied he directed the company to strike one. Multiple sources with knowledge of the investigation said that interviews are ongoing. Those sources say that the team from Wachtell Limpton, led by attorney David Anderson, who has led other league investigations, is interviewing Clippers officials and other key figures, including former Aspiration employees, with knowledge of the company's sponsorship deal with Leonard. Now, if you also remember, Ramon Shelburne also questioned and asked questions to Lawrence Frank during media day when the season started back in September, October, and she asked Lawrence Frank a couple questions about the situation. He basically dodged those. He didn't want to give up too much info because he is involved in this whole situation. And Kawhi Leonard was questioned, and he basically gave you the basic everyday answer because he did not want to incriminate himself or his uncle Dennis, who is also a big part of this whole situation. When I was watching Pablo Torre, allegedly that Kawhi Leonard and his uncle Dennis has opened up a lot of LLCs in the California area and in Florida. And there are more people involved in this whole situation. There are a lot of moving parts in this situation. So, again, check out Pablo Torre Finds Out on YouTube. Those sources say the team from Wendell Lofton, led by attorney David Anderson, has led to other league investigations, is interviewing Clippers officials and other key figures, including former Aspiration employee with knowledge of the company's sponsorship deal with Leonard. It's unclear if Leonard has yet been interviewed or if anyone close to him has either. Wachtell's investigation is ongoing, said the NBA spokesperson. There is more work to be done and no set timeline. It's not unusual for investigation to take many months. In 2021, the league asked Wachtell Linder to conduct investigation into the Phoenix Suns and then owner Robert Sarver following a November 21st ESPN story detailing allegations of racism and misogamy during Sarver's 17 years as owner of the Phoenix Suns. Anders also led the investigation, and Wachtell Linder interviewed 320 people and reviewed more than 80,000 pages of email, text messages, and other documents. The findings from that investigation were announced until September 2022, 10 months after the investigation was first launched. Silver addressed this complexity of the Clipper investigation at the All-Star weekend. You have a company in bankruptcy. You had thousands of documents, multiple witnesses. That's it. Well, there was more to but I ain't want to because it was, I'm sorry. It was really nothing. It was really nothing. So that's why I ain't get that part of it. But I will say this. The Los Angeles Clippers, if you pay attention during the trade deadline, that they traded Zubac to Indiana, and James Harden left, asked for a trade, went to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they said, James Harden won a new contract. Then you heard that Zubac, the reason he was traded because they got a great offer for him they couldn't turn down. Let me put this in context of telling everybody that the Clippers know what's coming down the road. And they traded their two valuable assets because they know that punishment is coming. So they had to trade some players so they can get some draft picks because they won't be having any draft picks once this ruling comes down. Now, I'm in the camp of I think this is going to come after the draft because if the NBA really wanted to punish the Clippers right now, they would have done it, and they probably would have took their 2026 draft pick away. But I think they're going to wait till after the draft to do this, and I think the Clippers going to get hit hard. There was reports that came out that the Clippers had a deal on the table, almost had a deal to deal Kawhi Leonard to the Golden State Warriors, but it didn't go through. And now there are talks that the Golden State Warriors and the Clippers will pick up those conversations during the offseason for Kawhi Leonard. So the Clippers know they're going to get hit hard. They know they're going to get punished by the NBA. Now, we don't know how many draft picks are going to get taken. We don't know what the fine is going to be. And we don't know who's going to lose their job. But we do know that once they do get punished, Steve Ballmer will not be running the Clippers for at least a year. Allegedly. All this is allegedly. So we're going to have to wait and see. But I think, like I said, I do believe the Clippers know what's coming. And because the moves they made at the trading deadline and the move that they almost traded Kawhi Leonard to the Golden State Warriors, and the simple fact that they're going to pick up those talks in the offseason, that should be telling to everybody that the Clippers know what's coming. Now we just got to find out ourselves what's coming. I don't know how long they're going to make us wait. And let's transition to this story about Giannis. Now, let me ask you guys something. Oh, and make sure you like, subscribe, and share the show, by the way. When you think of Giannis, you don't think of toxic. You don't think of distant. You don't think of a guy who is not about his teammates. Now, we know that Giannis has been frustrated because he wants to win and he wants the market bus to make moves, but they can't make any more moves because they don't have any more valuable assets to make a move. Recently it came out that, yes, the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks had trade discussion for Giannis, and Giannis came out recently and acknowledged that he almost became a New York Knicks, the team that he actually wanted to play for. Trade didn't go through because the Knicks feel they got a better team. Giannis goes to this season where it's him and basically, I don't want to say a bunch of scrap parts, but I don't want to say that because you got to show a lot of respect for Miles Turner. He's a good player. You got to show respect for Bobby Portis. He's a hardworking player. Um, and we seen how Kevin Porter Jr. stepped up last season. And coming back to this season, you was expecting big things out of him. Gary Trent Jr., another young player who showed a lot of promise last season. Two guys who bounced around in the league for a while, but they're still young, but they played pretty good. So, Giannis basically was going to come back to a team where they weren't going to compete for a championship, but a team, if they stay healthy, had an opportunity to compete for a playoff spot. Just didn't work out this season. Giannis been hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup, and you see the comments he made about wanted to play, but the Bucks don't want him to play. We all know why the Bucks don't want him to play because they want to improve their draft stock. The NBA is also investigating that situation on behalf of the NBA Player Association. Anytime a star player like Jan who wants to play, but the team's not going to let him play, I think we know who's going to win that battle. So it's just been a lot going on in Milwaukee, a lot of drama. So we're going to pull up this article about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks and about their relationship. Back in the 25-26 season, which is now, Giannis reportedly told the Bucks to trade him multiple times during the season. We all know how Giannis is. We already know he's not the most happiest guy right now. We know that he wants to win. And, it just can't happen in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is just not a good team. And again, they don't have the assets for Giannis to put a good team around him. What we do know is that the Milwaukee Bucks will be offering Giannis a contract extension. And they made it clear that if he doesn't sign a contract extension, if he says no, they will trade him. And along those lines, what came out yesterday is that the Milwaukee Bucks will make a decision on the future of Doc Rivers, who openly said that this will be his last stop. If he gets fired, he's going to retire from coaching. And I will get to that a little later because I see a lot of people be out here dissing Doc Rivers. So let's get to this report from Yahoo. Giannis and Milwaukee Bucks appear headed for a breakup. On top of everything else that transpired this season, Giannis' feud with the team over his return to play following a calf injury appears to be the nail in the coffin for the partnership. But to gloss over everything that came before Giannis' calf injury would be foolish, because the entire season has been a mess for both sides, according to ESPN Shams, who outlined everything that was going wrong for the Bucks during the 25-26 season. The piece paints an ugly picture, one that features veteran Bobby Portis telling teammates, "This is why we suck." Another source describing the year as like a funeral, and Giannis and his representation telling the Bucks it was time to part ways at least twice. The latest revelation shouldn't necessarily come as a surprise, as it was well known the Bucks were shopping Giannis last offseason and at the trade deadline. But what is surprising is that Giannis and his agent reportedly approached the team at least 2 times about moving on, something Giannis said he would never do. I remember he said that too. I would never approach Milwaukee to trade me. I would never, ever leave Milwaukee. It's funny how people like to talk. it's funny how sources like to say a lot. Oh, no. He definitely approached Milwaukee at least twice about trading. But apparently, that edict changed. As Sharna reported, Giannis and his agent contacted the Bucks a few weeks into the season and a few weeks prior to the trade deadline with the same message. It's time to part ways. Giannis, however, declined to go public with the request, believing the situation could be resolved professionally behind the scenes per ESPN. Now, this is what any player would say. I personally did not request a trade. I personally didn't do this. Representation did. But what get lost in the whole thing is that Giannis did say it. He did request it. He just did it through his representation. So they make it look like, hey, I didn't say it. My representation said it. You didn't hear it come from my mouth. It came out of their mouth. Just trying to save face. Trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, he said it, but he really didn't say it. No, he said it. Because his representation, his agent, I should say, would never do this without his consent. If Giannis said, get me out of here, he would make that known. And we all know a lot of guys like Giannis want to do this professionally. They don't want to do this through the media. They don't want to do this through social media. They don't want to do this in public. They want to do it behind closed doors professionally so that they can make themselves look good and they don't have to embarrass themselves or the team. That's all about right there. A trade never happened. While multiple teams reportedly reached out to the Bucks about a trade for Giannis, a few believe that the Bucks had no desire to make a move due to delayed response to trade offers. Other teams believe the Bucks wanted too much in the deal, reportedly asking the Cleveland Cavaliers for Evan Mobley and the Philadelphia 76ers for VJ Edgecombe, in addition to other players. Now, we talking about Giannis. We talking about an NBA champion, former MVP, former Defensive Player of the Year, All-Pro numerous of times. I don't blame Milwaukee for asking a lot because they want max value back for Giannis. I mean, look, they want draft picks and two good young players they can build around. I mean, if you're Cleveland Cavaliers, if you about to win a championship, would you part ways with Evan Mobley for Giannis? Same in Philadelphia. You know, you won't part ways with VJ's Edgecombe with the way Joe Embiid been looking and the way Paul George been looking. You telling me that you can build this team around Tyrese Maxey and Giannis? Or you the Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, and Giannis? And you just fill in the gaps right after that? That's a championship contender team. Both teams would be championship contender teams. Yes, you had to give up a lot, but it's risk the reward. Giannis would change the way this team will play. You have a two-way player. And especially if you are a team that you in win now mode, you would have no problem giving up a lot of assets for Giannis. Again, Philadelphia and Cleveland. I mean, if you look at it from Cleveland's standpoint, Evan Mobley and additional players, right? So you're not giving up James Harden. You're not giving up Donovan Mitchell, okay? But you are giving up Evan Mobley. You will have to give us some draft picks. And you probably have to give us some additional key players off the bench. But you still keep what's the guy named Jared Allen. Okay? So you will basically can just fill in the gaps through free agency or just, I always say, draft right. You will still have a championship contending team. And same with Philadelphia. The only difference is with Philly is that you will probably have to come off of Joe Embiid's contract because him and Giannis, Well, actually, you probably wouldn't because Giannis doesn't play. He doesn't shoot threes. He plays inside. Joe Embiid, he likes to fancy outside of 3-point line, shoot jump shots. Some you would have to convince him go inside. But if you decide to keep Joe Embiid, you had two defensive stalwarts right there in the block. Um, More likely you'll probably keep Paul George because Milwaukee probably want Paul George. They would probably want VJ Edgecombe. Let's go with Quentin Grimes, and let's go with probably Kelly Aubrey, and at that time they'd probably be Jared McCain, and you had to give us some first round picks. And again, like it will work. Now, if you probably don't want Paul George, you would probably have to make a separate deal or involve a third team, be a 3-team deal. And you could have got some valuable assets, maybe 2 players back for Paul George that would fit into what you're trying to do with Tyrese Maxey and Giannis. It would have worked. It 100% would have worked. Before I continue this article, there will be the Golden State Warriors, the same teams who wanted Giannis: Golden State, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Miami Heat, and the New York Knicks. And the Los Angeles Lakers will be going hard for Giannis this offseason. And I have to say this, especially about the Miami Heat and the Knicks, who the Miami Heat did not want to give up their young players. So this is why they're in the situation they're in right now, sitting in 10th place and going to be in the play-in game. You want to get a superstar on that to play with Bam. And Bam was a hell of a player. Shout out to Bam for this 83 points. Bam was a hell of a player. But you don't want to give up your valuable assets, your young players. But you want teams to take back Tyler Hero. It doesn't make sense. If you want Giannis, you would have to give us some young players. And the Miami Heat young players, I don't want to say that they're not that good, but what have they done this season? If you want to be a team that's going to compete for a title, or a team that's going to compete even for a division title, you will have to give us some assets. I mean, especially for Giannis. I can understand that it was John Morant. Of course, you don't want to give up your young talent. You probably want to give up Norman Powell, Tyler Hero, swap, boom. But when you have a big time player, an all-star player, 2-time league MVP, defensive player of the year, all-world guy, and Giannis, a generational talent, a franchise cornerstone, yeah, you give up whatever you got to give up. The same as the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks had Giannis in their pocket, had him. But you want to give up all those pieces. But you convince yourself that you have a team right now that compete for a championship. But you don't want to give up Mikal Bridges. You didn't want to give up OG Nano. You didn't want to give up Karl-Anthony Towns. To quote Stephen A. Smith, everybody not in New York on the Knicks team should be traded, is available to be traded for Giannis, except for Jalen Brunson. Except for Jalen Brunson. If the Milwaukee Bucks come calling and say, you want Giannis? This is what I want. You answer that phone, you like, got him, you can have him, take him, deal. So it goes on to sit here and say that the Bucks reported considered an offer from the Miami Heat, which allegedly included Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, and other players and draft picks per Charlotte, but the Bucks eventually declined because they weren't good enough. Were not good enough. And I also question about the Miami Heat young players. I mean, other than Khalil Ware, who showed promise and who actually can be a big-time player in this league, name one of the young players you think that could turn to be an all-star. Other than Khalil Ware, what young players they have, you can say that they're really good. I'm gonna wait for that answer. With Giannis at odds with the team, other aspects of the organization also fell apart. Head coach Doc Rivers reportedly tried to rally the team at a key point in the season, only to have his message rub players the wrong way and led to a brief benching of Kyle Kuzma. That was just one example of the theme of a season-long disconnect between Rivers and the players, sources told Charney. I mean, how could you go wrong with that, Doc? What was the message that you tried to get to the team that went the wrong way? And Kyle Kuzma, man, stealing money. Changes are undoubtedly coming to the Bucks in the offseason following his feud with the team over his return to play. Giannis finally appeared to be truly on his way out. Bucks officials are also expected to make a decision on Rivers, who could find himself out of the organization or in a different role next season. All of this has been known, or at least assumed, for quite some time now, but only failing to take action on multiple fronts. The Bucks appear to have made the whole thing worse during the season, the franchise will almost certainly like to erase from its memory. Yeah, I would too. And see, that's what I'm talking about. The Milwaukee Bucks had the opportunity to move Giannis, but they decided to keep him. They had an opportunity to get the package that they want, and they was waiting for the perfect package. Sometimes you're not going to get the perfect package. And I think what the Bucks did wrong was that the team was struggling. The team was hurting. The team was bothered by this whole Giannis situation. And they were bothered by Doc Rivers of the message he was trying to send. Sometimes you got to cut out the cancer to get the locker room back. They didn't do it. And as far as Doc Rivers, I never champion or want to see anybody get fired from their job. But Doc Rivers needs to not be the head coach of Milwaukee Bucks anymore. It's clearly the players are tuning him out. Clearly the players don't care about the message he's trying to say or preach. This team, with or without Giannis, was not a good team. There was nothing Doc Rivers can do to get these guys to play. There was nothing he can do to change the atmosphere, the energy of this team. It was a no-win situation. This season, no matter what, was going to be lost by the Milwaukee Bucks because the Bucks front office refused to pull the trigger trading Giannis. These players quit on Doc a long time ago. And as a coach, that's the worst thing you would want is your team to quit on you. And because they quit, and because he tried and he did make an attempt on Kyle Kuzma, he lost all credibility in our locker room. Look, Doc Rivers is a hell of a coach. The man won a championship with the Boston Celtics, his only one. He has led teams to the playoffs. His downfall, he couldn't get past the second round. His downfall, up 3-1 numerous occasions and still lost the series. His downfall, being up 3-2 numerous occasions and still end up losing the series. Doc Rivers is a Hall of Fame coach. The 6th most wins in NBA history. Doc Rivers cannot connect with today's players. I should say Doc Rivers is the type of coach where for a long term, he's not your guy. As we seen, coach of the Clippers, coach of the 76ers, and now with the Bucks. He overstayed his welcome. He was coaching there for too long. Doc Rivers, to me, is that coach where he can only be there short term. And the roster that's around him has to be perfect. Because if they're not perfect, they're not going to win. And anything he does after that, it's just going to go downhill. I would love to see Doc Rivers retire because he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish in basketball. It's unfortunately he won't get his second NBA title, but the word is out on Doc, and I don't think a lot of players want to play for Doc. So I love to see Doc to go back in the booth. I love to see him on TV, calling the games, giving his insight, and dealing with players, today's players. I just think, doctors need to just walk away. And I hate saying that. Now let's get to the story of the day I've been wanting to talk about. Is that I want to extend a congratulations to my Michigan Wolverines on winning the national championship by them beating the UConn Huskies 69-63. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Beating UConn 69-63. It was a low-scoring game. It was your typical Michigan game because Michigan will be scoring 90 points, blowing teams out by anywhere from 18 to 30 points. They did average 90.2 points for the NCAA tournament, which is pretty good, pretty high. I think that's what, 4th or 5th all time. Ella Cadeau was the most outstanding player, scored 19 points. As we can see here, for UConn, Alex Caravan has 17 points. This game was marred by bad shooting. Good shots taken, but bad shooting. When you're playing in a football stadium, the shooting and it just looks different. And give Michigan a lot of credit. Give Dustin May a lot of credit for going out to Michigan Stadium, putting the basketball hoop out there and let the players shoot so they get an idea what's going to be like playing basketball in a football stadium. Me personally, I would love to see them maybe once in a while go back to playing in arenas because I think that for shooting purpose, I think it'll be better for the players. And sometimes you just get tired of seeing games played in these big old football stadiums. And I get it. I know why the NCAA does. More fans, more money, more revenue. And I get it. But once in a while, it's okay to switch it up. It's okay to have the Final Four at Madison Square Garden. It's okay to have the Final Four at the Crypto Arena, which is this. I wish they'd get rid of that name. It's okay once in a while to have the Final Four at the TD Garden or the Little Caesars Arena, places like that. Or even in Indianapolis, which they didn't have it at, but they could have at the place formerly known as Conseco Fieldhouse. I'm just putting it out there. Or United States. I'm just naming. But yeah, so as you can see here, both teams didn't shoot well. Like I said, UConn shot the ball 31%, Michigan 38%. Michigan was 2 for 15 for 3-point line with 13%. UConn was 9 for 33 for 27%. UConn was 12 for 16 for 75% to the free throw line. And Michigan was 89%, 25 for 28. This is where they wanted at. Michigan defense was what won the game. If you watch the game, you see that Michigan had. To me, I thought they had more than 6 block shots. Look at they had like 14. They had 6 steals, but Michigan length gave UConn some issues because they packed the paint. Every time a player was going down to the hole trying to get an easy 2, either the ball was getting blocked or it was getting altered. Terrence Reed had a good game, but he didn't have that dominant game that we see him had during this NCAA tournament. One game he had 33 and 20 plus rebounds, and he had another game where he had 20 plus and over double-digit rebounds. He didn't have that dominant game. Alex Carey and Mullins, they couldn't hit a shot to save them. Both guys, UConn best three-point shooters, were struggling. Solo Ball, who had a decent game, couldn't really get off and do what you want to do because he's working with the ankle injury. UConn did everything they could to win this game to the point where you see the game, the score is 69-63. Dan Hurley did an excellent job of making this game a Big East style game, which back in the day, your boy loved the Big East because I love the physical play. I love the grit, the grindy, we're going to muck it up. I love that type of style, Big East style back in the day. With the Georgetown, the Syracuse, the Providence, the St. John's, the UConns, and Seton Halls. Man, don't get me started. Dan Hurley and UConn Huskies controlled this game and this tempo. They forced Michigan to play this way because this was the only way. And I mean, Dan Hurley said himself, this was the only way they was going to win this game. They made Michigan play their game, and they still lost. They forced Michigan out of their comfort zone. At least that's what a lot of people thought. But what Michigan showed was that they can play any style at any time. So with Michigan, what they're thinking is, we don't have to play pretty and we don't have to play pretty. We don't have to play the same type of ball that we always play. Oh, we can play like this and beat you. If you want a defensive battle, we can do that. And I think a lot of us forget that Michigan is and was one of the top defensive teams in college basketball. And they put that on display. You know, UConn like to run a lot of screens and cuts. Michigan took all that away by switching. They took everything UConn liked to do, Michigan took it away. They forced UConn to be one-dimensional. Now, vice versa, UConn forced Michigan to be one-dimensional as well, because if you see how Michigan like to play, they like to get out on the run on the fast break. They like to make sure they hit those three-point shots. They like to have that inside-outside game. They like to be balanced. Michigan was not balanced. But they D'd up Connecticut. And they forced Connecticut to play one of their worst games. And vice versa. Michigan won this game because their best friend, their leader, gave them inspiration. Yaxel Lindenberg, who came into this game with an ankle injury and a knee injury. Suffered both of those against Arizona in the semifinals, in which they blew out Arizona. He motivated these guys. He gave these guys inspiration by coming out here at the way he was looking. And he said himself, he looked bad, he feel bad. He is trying out here to do what he can. Players, your teammates pay attention to this. They pay attention to stuff like that. And by him giving it everything he had, and he couldn't really do anything, even though he scored 11 points, that's inspiration. And he gave that to his teammates. And that's why they won this game. The question coming out and going into this game is this Michigan team, if they win it, will they be the greatest Michigan team ever? Because this Michigan team was competing against the '89 championship team. No, they were not competing against the Fab Five because the Fab Five has a different vibe. They didn't win the championship when they went back to back, but the Fab Five are culture setter. They changed the culture of basketball. So they were not part of this argument. They were not part of this discussion, I should say. This discussion was about if this Michigan team win the national championship, are they better than the '89 team that won it? Are they better than the '89 team that shocked the world? That sign that Glenn Rice had when he was cutting the nets down, and he had that sign of shock the world. Are they better than that team? How I feel that both teams are even in everything. I have to give a slight edge. To the '89 team just because of one player, Glenn Rice. Glenn Rice has the edge. Glenn Rice is the reason why the '89 team will always have an edge over this team. Because Glenn Rice was a sniper. Glenn Rice was a baller, okay? Glenn Rice was that guy. Glenn Rice, as the young people here today would say, Glenn Rice was him, okay? There was no answer for Glenn Rice. The man was a three-point sniper. The man will put you away. There was no answer for Glenn Rice. And granted, there was really no answer for Yesser Lindenberg. But Glenn Rice was just on a different level. Now, like the '89 team, this Michigan team can play at a different gear, at another level. We've seen that. But that '89 team had a different gear and can play at another level. But Glenn Rice can play at a different, higher level. That's the difference. So how much I am proud of this '89 team of bringing back the championship back to Ann Arbor. You guys will always come in second place, '89 team. Now, unless Michigan finds a player that's on the same level as Glenn Rice and they win it, then I might put the other Michigan team over '89 team. But until somebody can sit here and say, hey, this player is better than Glenn Rice, I'm going to say the '89 team all day, every day. All day, every day. But I am proud of the University of Michigan. Not only that, but the Big Ten Conference in general set a record as the first conference in history to win in men's basketball, Michigan, women's basketball, UCLA, and men's football, Indiana. The Big Ten has dominated the two major sports in college sports. To some people, the Big Ten is back after winning their first NCAA championship in 25 years of men's basketball. Some people say the Big Ten is going to dominate from here on out. No. All I can say is, as a Michigan man, I'm just happy that my team won the national championship. And next year team, depends on who comes back or not, it's going to be one of the favorites to win the national championship next year, in which the Final Four will take place in Detroit, Michigan. And your boy going to do all he can to to be there along with my show. The Final Four will be in Detroit. I know it's gonna be live. It's gonna be off the chain. And I can't wait to be there. The expectation right now for University of Michigan under Dusty May, the standard has changed. We are now going to be expected to be one of the top teams in the country. We're going to be expected to be here year in, year out, and we're going to be expected to win more championships. And I know that's something. And I know that's an accomplishment. And I know that's a challenge that Dusty May will take on him and his staff. Because like he said, things have changed. We are no longer recruiting players. We are being recruited by players. And if that stands to true, then I expect Michigan and the transfer portal and on recruiting trails to get some of the best players that they can get. I will say some of the best players that money can buy because of NIL. But, yeah, I do expect Michigan to get some of the top players in the country from here on out. And before I sign off, just want to let everybody know that Detroit Pistons Cade Cunningham will be back in time for the postseason play. And if you're a Piston fan like me, you're looking forward to that. You're looking forward to it. And as someone pointed out to me, back in 1989, the Michigan Wolverines won a championship. A few months later, the Detroit Pistons won the NBA championship. So there are some parallels there. Gets you thinking. We're going to see what the Pistons do this postseason. Kind of like that. And before I sign off today, I just want to say to everybody, playoff basketball is around the corner. Make sure you guys tune in and cheer for your favorite team. And as fans of this game, let's make sure we continue to take in the knowledge of the game, continue to take in and learn from this game. Because there's too many of us putting out false narratives out here. There's too many of us thinking basketball is one thing, but it really is not. So when this NBA playoff season starts next week, just cheer for your team. Cheer for your favorite player. And that's it. Don't leave the nonsense alone. Don't worry about the nonsense. Don't worry about the naysayers. Just cheer for your team and watch the good basketball game. That's it. That's all we got to do. We don't got to do all the extra. It's not needed. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share my show. This is DS Walk. DS Walk from the Double Dribble Podcast. Detroit Sports Talk. And I will holler at you guys later. Peace.
Yeah. Game time. Double dribble. DS Walk Talk. Let's go. Hey. 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 Hit play, that's a tip off. We in it from the jump. DS Walk breaking down the action. Hey, run, talk, stats, talk, drama, talk, hustle, talk hard. From the league to the black top, he pull it apart. Late nights, hot takes, you can hear the net sing. Overtime moments, every episode rings. You ain't courtside, cool. He bringing you the view. Whole squad tuned in, like, what he gonna do? This that Double Dribble Podcast. Yeah, we locked. DS Walk got the fans talking. We ain't clocking from the baseline up to the rafters. Every play, each chapter. This that Double Dribble Podcast. Let the crowd roar. DS Walk keep the score on the scoreboard. If you love that talk, better tap in. When he drop that show, we back in. He gon' call out the choke, praise the clutch on the road. From the rookies on fire to the vets in control. Trade rumors in the air, he just shooting them down. Truth cut through the noise, hear the echoing sound. Pre-game, post-game, he got all of that flow. From the what-if legends to the stars we know. You can ride to it, vibe to it. Cook in the crib, whole fam in the kitchen yelling, run that clip. It's that Double Dribble Podcast. Yeah, we locked. DS Wall got the